The way it's happening is what I have a problem with.
Taking a position that I am inherently entitled to the supreme position.
A sort of white supremacist structure that allows for that kind of language to become what's used to refer to something that is actually cyclical.
Segregating the people who spend the most time in a neighborhood from the people who spend the most money in a neighborhood.
It's something that I feel guilty about and I feel like I am part of, but I also can't help to a degree.
Culture clashes, people who are suffering just trying to make ends meet, disruption.
I'm very privileged, financially privileged, I'm educationally privileged just from where I was born and the color of my skin.
With gentrification, you have a community. There is a takeover. People with the money, with the resources, with the privilege, they invade. And slowly and surely they begin to change that community. So it becomes absolutely hard for the people that used to live there to even survive.
I live in Flatbush. I need to spend a lot of time listening and learning about who was living in that house before me, what's been happening in that neighborhood for the people that have been there for 20, 30 years.
I was raised in a very small rural white town by white parents. I was adopted. And from the very, very beginning of my consciousness, I realized that there was this difference and that I wanted to be around brown skin and black people and black culture, and so I couldn't really move here fast enough. Gentrification in that context, whereupon black and brown people are regularly disappearing, is quite devastating to me because it is my connection to black culture and community that I didn't have when I was growing up.
Crown Heights is where I want to live. I love the community. I picked it out because there are people who I can relate to on that level, that there are other black and brown people there. The fact that it's changing and there are a lot more white people coming in, I have some gripes with that, but at the same time it's more of, I don't know if I want to be able to plop down more money for a place I'm already living in.
Historically, minorities haven't had the same opportunities. They have less wealth in the form of property owning.
The landowners, they're all over the globe and they're totally detached from those communities. And I think that's the most insidious part of development in Brooklyn right now.
I'm from Europe and we have much more intervention from government in this sort of issues. You can also deal with these issues in a free market, but then you have to be very conscious to work on the negative effects of gentrification.
The white upper class, I would definitely say, has more responsibility here than they like to admit. Anybody who has the power and the ability to come into community and completely do whatever it is that they want with it, knowing that the people that do live in that community don't have that same power, it is a complete unmatched fight.
I've lived in Crown Heights for 4 years. How long can I continue to live in my neighborhood? I would say maximum another 2 years.
Given my status, I'd probably give myself maybe 2-3 more years.
We are so privileged that we don't have to go.
My lifespan in the neighborhood that I live in currently is about 4 more months. After living in the same apartment for 10 years, the landlords have finally decided that they're going to cash in and they're going to take the building down and build up.
I am in the lucky circumstance that I would be able to stay in my apartment for essentially forever.
I've been living in Canarsie since I was 7 years old. Previously, before that, I used to live around East New York. The thing is, Canarsie is pretty much at the lower area of Brooklyn. It's like gentrification hasn't really started yet, so to speak. Probably in the next 5 to 10 years, after certain areas of Brooklyn are completely inhabited, people will begin to move into these areas such as Canarsie because of the fact that they need more houses, they need more space.
Job placement, anti-displacement, and then affordability at a real level. If those 3 or 4 major things are done, then we will have done what we need to do so that Cypress Hills remains what it is. Otherwise, it's going to be Bushwick number 2. It's going to be Williamsburg number 3. It's going to be Bed-Stuy number 4. Will just be the same as the rest that have been swept over in the tide of economic speculation.
We can talk about changes we can make to law and how we go about taxing property and investors to change things. But there's also a way to think about this and talk about it on a more interpersonal level. And as a resident of Brooklyn, as a citizen of New York City, that means first and foremost knowing my neighbors.
What gentrifiers do, if we're going to go ahead and use that word, is they embody the space and they don't enter the community. So I think one of the really important distinctions is that if you are somebody who is in a position to move into these historically black and brown neighborhoods, that's fine, so long as you are able to and willing to also insert yourself graciously into the community that already exists there.
And he said, "You're still here." And I went, "Yeah, and you're still here. Things have changed, haven't they?"
It has a negative connotation because it means it's a class problem.
What do I think of when I hear the word gentrification?
I think that gentrification is something that is inevitable.
I hear unfair practices. I think about money.
When I hear gentrification, I hear takeover.
I hear white people taking over.